Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
I think last week we missed the session. So anybody remembers what we discussed in the last class? Or maybe just recap of last 4 classes, because today is the 5th class. So just wanted to understand what did we discuss in the last 4 classes.
Good afternoon, sir. So I
Yeah,
think in last class we talked about OD. We were talking about OD. What are the competencies? What are the challenges? What are the diagnostic model? And how do you have to do the process of diagnosis?
Can we recollect from the class 1 so that we understand that flow? Because there is a gap. I just wanted to have a small recap. If there is any possibility that you remember.
I think first is obviously the first session that we have was actually about you can say introduction to the topic of innovation and change management. Why is it necessary? What are the challenges? What is the processes that we need to follow? I think we started with that. And then we went into the topics of how do we have to anticipate the change and understanding the culture of the organization. And what is the process that we need to follow? What are the things which come into the picture when we talk about change management? Like we have to take care of the technology, the people, product, strategy, and all that stuff. What are the forces which need to change? What kind of changes that can happen? Some are planned, some are unplanned changes. Some have to happen because of external factors. We went through that, and there were some models that you talked about, like the ADKA model, the Lewin's change model, unfreeze, freeze, refreeze. I think we started with that. And
Very good. So that's a good recollection of the memory.
thank you, sir. And after that, we also talked about what are the resistance to changes, process of change, the traditional versus the modern view probably. How have to and also I think the third session that we had about was the change process, and also I think why is how to establish in fact urgency of change, and what are the things that resistance and everything. And then last lecture was on the OD part is what my understanding is.
Wonderful. So what did we discuss in OD? So change is over, then we move to OD. OD, what did we focus on?
Yes. So basically,
Shailu, can we ask somebody else to share?
Sure, sir. Sorry.
Because let's also give an opportunity, and if nobody shares, you can come back. Yeah. Anybody else would like to share or throw some light on what we discussed in the last class? Madhu, Jugal, Mona. Anyone? Geeta, Mohan. Hope all are listening to me. Or is the class just on and then you are off?
So
I think most of the point has surely already been covered.
No, Geeta, we did not understand what you said.
Most of the topic surely has already been covered. Therefore, we are not adding anything.
No, we're just asking in OD, what did we discuss? She covered about the change and so on. So in OD, organizational development, last class we discussed some things. So just wanted to understand. Usually I keep recapping all the topics that we discussed, but now without showing the presentation, I just wanted to understand. Bharat, would you like to say something?
So sorry, I don't have anything to add over there.
Okay. Okay, no issues. So we'll revert back to Shailu to understand, maybe to enlighten us or make our memories to recall.
Sure, sir. So I think we talked about the OD practitioner types, and we were basically understanding the difference between, and also the choice between what kind of, or who should we choose as an OD, the external or the internal. What are the factors we have to think when we are choosing the kind of OD? What are the styles and practitioner levels, and how to overcome the changes? How do we buy in? Basically, when we're talking about OD levels, it also has to be a buy-in. The styles that we talked about, like the various things, like the analyzer, the cheerleader style, and all that stuff. Yeah, I think that was basically it, if I remember correctly.
So that's what we discussed basically about the external or internal OD. And then we discuss about the various aspects. That's wonderful. So today we will see something very interesting. So maybe let me present to you. Okay, so this is what we will be discussing here. We discussed about the OD and change process, and then the topic is understanding the OD and the change process, and then overcoming the resistance to change. So, sorry, this will be the topic that we'll be discussing today, developing excellence in individuals. So under that category, last week we discussed about the transformation between the change and the OD. And today we will be discussing about developing excellence in individuals. Okay, so how do we understand the individual interventions? So far we discussed about the organizational level. Now, what is the role of each individual as a change agent? So what are we to do? What are the methods that we can use in terms of implementing this OD changes in the organizations and so on? And then we will discuss about, suppose, is there a method to understand us better, to understand the clients better? So those are the things that we will be discussing today. So with this, we will come to a certain conclusion today because we will be in the halfway. We'll be able to understand the different models of a change and some models of a OD as an organization or individuals. And then from there, next week, we will focus on how high performing teams can be created. So that's a process. So in this process, if you look at, so today, when I speak about developing excellence in individuals, we will definitely discuss about defining excellence and developing the organizations, and then why the ability to understand individual interventions are very important, and then understanding the need for developing in the excellence in the individuals we'll discuss, and then role of developing excellence in the individuals and interventions. So these are the major areas that I will be covering. So let's focus maybe one by one. So the change can be in the organization. We discussed about the different types of change. We discussed about the changes happening from external forces or internal forces. Change can happen from various structures, maybe organization, or maybe in terms of, you want to change in the organization, or maybe there's a political change, or maybe there is some policy change, whatever it is. Now, today, if you look at, the change can be individual. Now, when I speak about change as an individual, the changes happening at the individual level also can be a change. Now, that also can have an impact on the people, or in the teams, or in the organization. Now, what is changes happening in the individual level? Example, you want to transfer an employee from one place to the another place. So when you're transferring an employee from one place to the other place, it's not just an easy task to fill a transfer form and send the person. Now you need to understand what are the different repercussions that this particular thing has in terms of a transferring an employee. That's the most important thing that we need to remember. Because, can somebody say, suppose, assuming that you are working in New Delhi and you are asked to transfer to Hyderabad or Mumbai. So what would be different repercussions that you will have to foresee before you issue a transfer? Anyone?
Maybe the spouse employment.
Wonderful. Spouse employment.
Yeah, addition of cost in term of rent
Addition of
and
a cost in terms of a rent, cost of living in the different city,
yeah, and children education.
children
Secondly,
education.
unawareness of that new city and getting
So
acclimatized
familiarity of
will
that
take time.
city.
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe language barrier can come over there because in
Language
Hyderabad,
barrier.
Telugu, yeah, and
Okay.
so a lot of thing can come if one person changing, let's say altogether a state from one place he known, very much known, and going to the place where it is not so known to him or
Wonderful.
her.
Bharat, now whatever the changes that you spoke, which are related to the personal. Now, I also want you to think about if you are transferring a person, what are the changes probably that are related to the organization?
Organization, maybe let's say it is change based on demography and the overall team. So if that person is getting changed from one state to another state, so understanding about the business priority and maybe the culture, team culture, all
Okay,
those things,
wonderful. We
people
understand the
understanding.
culture of the new team.
Yeah,
So what else?
territory, demographic understanding, maybe.
So in case if the person is in sales, he needs to understand the territory and the demographical areas. Okay.
Yeah,
Because the
and
others probably HR doesn't require to understand the territory.
true.
Probably he needs to understand the what we call the political or government side of the aspects.
Yeah, there different set of norms and
Good. What are
so
the different
laws,
norms?
different state laws,
Law,
different
law of,
countries laws.
law of the
Yeah,
land. Law of
law
the
of the
land.
land, law of the
Yes.
land.
Okay. Wonderful. So here we have seen only just because you are transferring an individual from one place to the other place, there are different things that you as a change agent need to focus on. One is the personal aspects of an individual, and second is the professional aspects of an individual. Probably, if Michael, you want to say something?
So there are many other things as well as you have added a couple of things. Work-life balance get disturbed when you move from one state to another state because you're very well
No, your voice is not
balancing.
clear, Michael, for me. I don't know if it's for same everybody, but for me, it's not clear.
1 second, just hold on.
Is it better now?
Much better.
See, I changed from Hyderabad to Chennai, and
Okay.
at Hyderabad, I was able to manage my work-life balance very good. But
Okay.
when I moved to Chennai, it was very difficult. It took a very long time for me to have this work-life balance because the place where I was residing, the office where I was traveling, commuting, took a lot of time and toll on my body, for which I was not able to, have that work-life balance which I was having when at Hyderabad because, everything was convenient for me there.
So, Michael, we have a practical case for my example. No? Can
Yeah.
you tell me professionally, personally, what challenges you faced?
The
Because I
first,
don't need to introduce new case now here.
as I told you, where I moved to a new place personally, didn't knew the language,
Okay,
and
language.
somehow I managed, but it is still taking a longer time for my wife and kid to understand the language.
Okay.
And they do not venture out because they don't know the language. They wait for me for every small thing. Every weekend I'm busy because I'm the one who goes out and fetch everything and get back. Okay, and they sometimes once they were lost. Instead of telling there was some location, they told them another location. It's Chennai. It is tongue twister. The name the tongue twister. So he took him to some other place and dropped him.
Okay. So that's personal level. Professional level, what challenges have you faced?
Again, language is the barrier. I had people communicating in English as well as Telugu, but over here, people mostly they can communicate English, but again, there is this they had this favoritism. This guy is from Hyderabad, and so we should not mingle with him. So
Okay.
sometimes I would be a person sitting all alone having having lunch as well. These all the things were there with me.
So how long has it been when you moved there?
About now 3 years.
Okay. So what are the methods have you used in terms of this change process, adapting to this change?
Nothing. See, especially those people whom I really had, had to work very closely with. I would take them out for a tea, coffee, and snacks. That's how I got
Okay.
closer to them.
Wonderful.
And wishing
Good.
them on their birthdays, and just having a good time with them post field. I mean, office hours, discussing some topics of their interest. That's how I've come closer to them.
Okay. So I understand you are an HR.
I'm not an HR. I'm into training.
Okay. So that's again L&D part.
Yeah, L&D.
Okay, fine. So this is one aspect, as I said. So there's also another element which we need to focus. Suppose you have already built in, or the person has built in a very strong team in the existing office. Now, when you are transferring from the other location, how about the existing team? Because there is no job psychological safety for them, because they are in a dilemma. What happens? Who will come as a new boss? What would happen? Will we be able to survive? Unless the existing boss is something, he is a very person who tortures, then they'll be very happy. But we need to understand the different dynamics. And that's also is a danger, because this fellow is very strict and torturing. The new boss comes in and they have a freedom. So again, that might impact in the performance. So this is one. And second, in the case of individuals, what we have is that job assignment. Now, suppose, there is a concept in the HR, what we call it as a job rotation. Now, when you rotate people from one role to the other role, again, it's a change at the individual level. Now, that also we need to consider as the change. And then how do we address this particular change is a very important. Now, this is what I'm speaking about. Change can be when it is individual. Don't take it very light as a change agents, because it's a responsibility of the change agents to in the organization to understand how important this even handling this transfers and the rotation. Now, these are the two examples I'm citing here, but there can be many. Now, when you go into a bigger companies, probably this will not affect unless it is a senior most position. But if it's a smaller company where you have a double-digit numbers of employees, or probably even triple-digit number, which is in 200, 300, 400 people, such a companies will see this impact in the change of an individuals. Now, that's where we need to focus on. Because if it's a company worth having it almost 2 lakh, 3 lakh people, or maybe say 10,000 people, or say 3,000, 4,000 people, mostly it will not affect in the lower level. Suppose if you are changing a unit head itself, location head itself, then you need to follow this change process. So that's one element. Second we have is the group changes. Now, when I speak about the group changes that happen in group level, like departments, specific work groups. Now, what are the probable changes that can happen in the group levels is that one is workflows. Now, when I say about the workflows, probably, the movement of the people from one boss to the other boss, one segment to the other segment. And then how do you design the job rotation? And then probably the most important is that communication patterns. That also happens. See, all this while probably the organization is saying, suppose marketing department or in coordination with the production department are saying, okay, over the call, the things are getting done. Now, henceforth, because of the auditory issues, somebody says, let's have only the email communication as a method of communication. Now, probably that's where the gap or the change happens in the departments. Now, another thing what we speak about is that when we speak about the workflows, now all this while there is a structure that you have been creating, and then because of the non-working, assuming in a HR department we are working. When we are working in a HR department, probably you as a HR head, you have assigned to the people function-wise responsibility. like, one of your team member will take care of entire marketing HR related activities. Either it's a payroll, or it's a maybe compliance, or it's maybe attendance. Now that's a structure that you have been running. Now, I'm giving you this example because I have made this change in one of the organization. Before I moved to the organization, the structure was like this. Now we have, in the department, there are 10 people. Each person was assigned with a one different function, department. Now every function, including PF, PSI, salary processing, or maybe attendance, leaves, everything was processed by one HR, and that HR was responsible for that particular department, whatever happens. And then that person used to come and report to the head HR, speaking about these are the challenges with respect to this department, and including recruitment. So that means I'm speaking about entire life cycle of an employee of that particular department is responsible by this HR. Now, when I took over as a head of HR for that particular organization, then I found it little something, I don't know. I found it little difficult because 10 people doing a PF in different ways. Then salary processing, each person taking so much, like a month end. Usually HRs have a tough time in the month end. So when we have in the month end, last 5 days is the attendance closure. So a lot of people used to come and stand in front of every person in terms of closing a HR and their leaves, closing their leaves and attendance. And then after the payroll, if there is salary slips or salary issues used to come, because it's a kind of unorganized sector. So therefore there's a lot of physical work which is involved. And then we have seen all those things. And then this is where I wanted to change the workflow. Now workflow, I wanted to say, whatever the payroll that's happening for the entire company, only one person will handle. Entire statutory issues, PF and ESI related issues, only one person will handle. So I have changed from department to function-wise responsibilities. Now, when I'm bringing this transformation in the group of my department, which is impacting the organization, and then people started wondering, how is this possible? Now, all these days we have one person. So that person used to do everything for us. Now, because of that, I did not find uniformity. Because of that, I did not find confidentiality. So there was a disturbance. And so when I changed, I have to use a change management process. So what is the change management process that I have used? Probably, the first step what I have done is that I need to put it everything in a step-by-step process in terms of analyzing what are the pros and cons, and why this change that I'm implementing in this particular organization, and what are the pros and cons of this particular change. And then once the management is convinced, that's a buy-in of the management. The second level, what we have done is that we had a departmental conviction, because everybody in the team should accept it willingly. Because if some person doesn't accept it willingly, probably they'll have a problem. And second, the advantage for me here is that everybody knows every function of that particular HR role. So therefore, there is no need for doing analysis of the training and process it. So we have to understand which person is more capable in which function. Then we assign, based upon their willingness, we assign those functions. So that's how we have done it. The change process has happened. Now, these are certain group changes which can happen. So this can happen with a HR, this can happen with a marketing, this can happen with somebody. So probably when departments wants to have a change in their departments, they look out for change agents. Now that is the role of a change agents to drive this change very smoothly. Now, the third level of change can happen with the organizational level. Now, what is the organizational level changes? It's a major programs that affect the individual and the group as well, both of them. Now, what are those things? And most of these organizational changes are implemented by the senior management professionals. Now, example, revising the wage structure. So now suppose we want to implement a revision in the wage structure. Now, what is the revision that we wanted to implement in the wage structure? Maybe because of the cost of the living, or maybe because of the changing inflation rates, the organization wants to revise, or maybe because of the recession that's happening, they want to do a revision in the structure. Now, what could be revision in the structure? Either lower down or increase. Probably post-COVID, most of the organizations, they worked on most of the wage structures, they have converted into performance-based, what we call performance-based increase. Like, 80% is a fixed and 20% as a variable. So now all this while I was getting a completely 100% of fixed salary. Now, because of this recession which is happening, we want to convert that into a variable, at least 20% of that 100% fixed. Now, this is a big wage structure that we are changing. Now, this can be one of the biggest change that where people have a lot of disturbances, because all this while they used to take something, or now they are converting it. Now, how do you do it? There's a big process that we need to implement. This is also organizational change. Now, second is organizational structure. Maybe probably you have a very tall structure all this while, and your management wants to have a flat structure in the organization. Now, when you reduce from tall structure to flat structure, again, we need to follow different methods which is related to OD. Now, I'm sure all these things, these changes, whatever it is, the individual, whether it's a group, whether it's an organizational, we have to take a course back into whatever we discussed. What are the pros and cons that we need to do? What is the process? What is the method that we need to follow? One of the models that we need to implement. So now this is a change. Now, what is a change agent? Now, what is the role of a change agent in terms of these three things? Let's look at. So these are the two people who have been defined what is the role of a change agent. Now, these people are, we have a Havelock and then Shuskin. So in their research, they found very beautifully what exactly the role of a change agent. Let's look at one by one. So he says first one is homophily. That's what they defined as a homophily. Now, what is homophily? It's a relationship between client and agent. Now, very important. Now, the client can be individual, client can be group, client can be organization. Now, the most important these people speak about in their research, the more associated with the person you are, the better change can be implemented. That means you need to be getting into the nerves of the persons. You need to make that relationship with the person. Suppose I want to transfer somebody from other place. Say, assuming I want to transfer Michael from Chennai to some other place now after 3 years, which he has seen already experienced it. Now, as a change agent, my role is that first I need to get familiarity with Michael, understand him through and through, then understand all his challenges, pros and cons. Then I become a friend with him. Without knowing, I develop that familiarity with the relationship with the person, and then it becomes easy for me to ask. Now, that's what they speak about. Homophily is one of the most important factor for everybody as a change agent if we want to implement a change. Because, when our friends, when our known person says something, most of the time the negativity 50% is removed from my mind. So that's what they speak about. Second, empathy. Now, this is also a very important. As a change agent, we need to be empathetic to the people. Now, because we have a power to change, or because we have asked to do something, we have to do it. But you can't be very strict. You need to understand the feelings and emotions and thinking levels of the people. Now, what is their thought process? Now, unless you are not empathetic to the person, you don't get into the better relationship with the person. That's again, which is interconnected. And third one, which speaks about, very important, they say, is that linkage. The linkage, what they speak about, again, it's an association between the client and the agent. Degree of collaboration between the agent and client. How frequently you collaborate with a person, how much supportive you are to the person, then how do you work with the person? So now all these things that they speak about. Now the fourth one is a proximity. Now you have developed a relationship, but how much proximity you have with a person? Do you have that easy access to just walk in, or do you have some restrictions, or do the person see you as a something, planning or something? Now this is what he speaks about, help. So now if you look at the 4 words what they defined, help. So that means what these people are saying, a change agent should be a person who helps the client. Okay, that's one. The second part of their research, what they see is that your change should be a structuring. So that means it should be step-by-step process with a clear plan. It cannot be all things together. Then what they say next is that capacity. Now, when I say capacity, when they say capacity, it means the resources must be adequate and available as well. There are a lot of times we see, I'm sure some of you, when you get transferred or when you are asked to do something, most of the people, they might have asked you, okay, they promise you a lot of things. But when you go over there, they'll say, we will look into it. We will see in the next month. This month we forgot. We will see in the next appraisal time. We will see in the next increment. Now, these kind of promises that we make. And most of the time when they transfer, they also give you empty promises that we take care of your all kind of requirements over there. And once you go there, after 1 week, nobody bothers. So what they say is that should have enough resources which are adequate and available. Now, openness. What's a degree of openness that you have with the person? So that's also is very important. So if the person perceives you something different, then they may not accept it. Then reward. So there should be always some long-term rewards and short-term rewards, because this is also promising. I remember one of the company where I was working, they have transferred because they were setting up a new office in a different locations. So that's like they had an office in Hyderabad. They were setting up in Andhra when the state was bifurcated. Now automatically when people are transferred from Hyderabad to the AP state, now all these people were given a benefit of some X amount of rupees for next to 3 years, because every year they want to pay that X amount of amount. So that's only for their benefit because of their transfer. So automatically people accept it because they are getting additionally. And in the current organization what we are working, because when where I'm working, most of the people, they have to come from very far. Now there's a policy we have implemented. People who stay closer, that's within radius of 5 kilometers from the company, they'll be paid as incentives, local allowances. Now automatically everybody wants to shift closer, because when people are very closer, probably we have a lot of benefits for the organization. So that's why rewards and recognitions should be given. Then what is the energy? This is a very, very important for every change agent to remember this. Amount of efforts put into change process by client and agent. Now, very, very important. The change process consumes a lot of energy. But what do they say is that agent should not spread over this energy for too many clients. You have to effectively use your energy to spread across to the key clients, whereas this energy will be transferred by the others. Now, the last most important is synergy. Whole is more than sum of its parts. This speaks about the top 9, help, score. So when you help to score people better, that creates energy. So change agent role is that it's a help scores. So this is what we need to remember when we are talking about. So what is the role of a change agent? Remember this principle. Help scores is a principle that they have proposed. Okay, so this is what exactly we have seen, the different types of changes we have seen, the role of a change agents we have seen. Any questions so far? Team, any questions, or should I go forward?
No questions.
Okay. So let's look at now, there is a thing known as a group OD and system OD. Now, when you look at a group OD and system OD, just for your understanding, now there are the difference which speaks about group OD. This is just a historical background. I'll just quickly run through. I will not explain much detail here. Group emerged from dynamics and plant changes. That's maybe late 40s. So then interest in organizational transformation started in 70s. Then it's a relatively new field study, 50s and 60s, which has come in. But this study speaks about organizational systems rather than the individual groups and functions. Then this is known as just models of practice. And then fourth trunk stems from the group ODRs, T groups. I'm sure most of you have heard about action research models, socio-technical approach, surveys and feedbacks. So these are the methods that they were used. But whereas this one, targets and impetus of change is system-wide change using a large-scale interventions. So this is a difference between these two. And if you look at the major contributors of group OD were Kurt Lewin, 1940s, with a T group he has introduced. Then we have a next one is a Kenneth and Ben and Co. L group that they have introduced. Chris Arigares, 1957, he has conducted a first team building sessions with the CEOs. Then Douglas McGregor, 1957, he started a programs in organization studies in MIT theory, XY theory. I'm sure most of you have heard about this XY theory. Then Warren Bennis, only T grouper to actually try to reshape organization. That's what he mentioned. Then Tavistock formed theories of group behavior. So now these are the major contributors towards a group OD. Now, probably if you get a time, you can go through these theories which are available in the textbooks. Now, if you look at the major contributors of system OD, if you look at Chris, this is the organizational OD I'm speaking about. Chris Arigaris in 1990, defensive routines and double loop learning is a theme that he has used. Then Peter Senjay, 1990, system thinking and learning disabilities in organizations. Then Robert Blake looked at systems rather than individuals in system one-on-one basis. So these are the three key people who have contributed to the system ODs. Now, this is what is a system OD and the organizational OD. Now, let's look at the most important. I'm just going to introduce in terms of an individual change that we are discussing about. What is the role of individuals in terms of organizational development? Now, the first tool is that appreciative inquiry. Now, what is this appreciative? Anybody heard about this appreciative inquiry? Anybody knows?
No, sir.
Appreciative inquiry is where we look at positive things and try to understand what works in the process. It's not like what is not working or kind of thing. So appreciative inquiry where we can appreciate the whole process and to understand more about how it is impacting or influencing the entire purpose.
Wonderful. So you have touched upon the right element. We'll discuss. Okay, fine. Anybody else? Navdeep, you wanted to say something?
No.
Okay, fine. So now, if you look at this appreciative inquiry, what Anand was speaking about, more or less same, but this is the fifth element of what Anand spoke about. But absolutely focusing only on the positive, but various levels are there. We will discuss now. So this is one of the tool which is used most of the time by the change agents. So which is 1980s, which was pioneered by David Cooper Ryder and plus Suresh, and then the two of the professors. Now, this is an approach which is used to collaborate and strength-based change. That's all. It focuses basically on strength-based change. So now, how do we look at this appreciative inquiry? Now, the assumption of this particular thing is that every human system has something that works right things, that give it a life when it is vital, effective, and successful. So this is like, I would try to correlate this. Every human has a strong hours in life. In entire day, you have a strong hours. Probably I'll try to correlate to our education system or maybe our study times. In the group year, some of you are very good at studying late nights. Whether it's a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you keep studying, and whatever you study, it gets into your mind. But some people, 10 o'clock, after 10 o'clock, if they study, nothing goes into these brains. They can't study beyond this. But they are very good at studying early morning birds. They get up even at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock to study. So that's a strength hour. Now, similarly, some people, if you look at in the organization, when you go to work, morning, first 2 hours, your strength hours, as soon as you get into morning hours, you do the best possible contribution to your work. Post lunch or maybe post tea break, nothing will happen. You just time pass. But some people, if you see, when they come into the organization, unless they go for a coffee break in the morning, they don't start work. Only after the coffee break, they start working because the strength hours are those. Now, this is, and some people, if you look at only evening hours before they go, they start working very hard and they complete everything in a short time. Now, this is known as every human has got some strength. Now, if you tackle that strength at the right time in a right way, the things will work for us. That's absolutely appreciative inquiry, which speaks about that's assumption which works on. So, do you all agree with me what I said? We all have strength hours, right?
Yes, sir.
I keep seeing
Totally
guys
agree, sir.
giving a lot of symbols.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, some people, they do not have these hours.
They don't have hours.
Yeah, I mean, productive sometimes. And just out of joke, I mean, sometimes it is seen like they need some impetus. And without that impetus, they cannot, perform. Something like, as you said, like the chai break or tea break.
High is
Or,
impetus, yes.
yeah, that's it.
Good. So this works actually. That's what this builds on this particular system. Let's look at the second assumption. AI begins by identifying this positive core and connecting it to, in a ways, the heighten energy, sharpen vision, and inspire actions for change. Now, this is exactly speaks about you as a change agent need to identify what is that positive work hours of that particular person, right thinking, what we call it is in the first assumptions, right things that gives life when it is vital. Now you need to find out what is that vital time for that particular person. You can't tell everything, it's like, we are checking with a boss. Before you approach your boss, you ask a lot of people, how is boss mood today? Can I meet him? How many of you go to your boss without asking this? Now, this is exactly trying to find out the right thing. Now, some of you know, when you approach, at what time you approach your boss, when the works are getting done. By hook or crook, only you try to approach that particular person during that time. Probably you will not go in the beginning of the week. Probably you will go end of the week, or maybe the last few hours of the work. Maybe whatever it is, or in the morning, first hour, you want to go and get the things before somebody comes and disturbs the boss mind. So there are various things we are speaking about. So role is to appreciative inquiry. Assumption is that there is a positive for everybody. There's a right time. Now you need to identify that right time to strike. So it's a striking of an iron is hot. Now, this appreciative inquiry works on these 5 principles, as I said. First one is the constructionist principle. Second one is the principles of simultaneity, poetic principle. Fourth is the anticipatory principle. And fifth is the positive principle. So towards the end, what we speak about the positive principle is the thing that we are focusing on. That's what Anand also spoke when I asked in the initial stages. So these are the 5 principles that it works on. Now, what are those principles? Let us look at. The first one is a constructionist principle. Now, the constructionist principle proposes that we believe to be true determines what we do, think, and actions that emerges out of our relationships. Okay, it speaks about whatever is the kind of relationship that I have with a person, then rest of the things will emerge. That's a construction. Though the language and discourse of day-to-day interactions, people co-construct the organizations they inhabit. So it's not one day that the people construct their belief systems, but it's a regular day-to-day interactions and the experiences that they have. And then the purpose of this inquiry is to stimulate new ideas, stories, images. So these are the three principles it works out. First one is it's a relationship based, and second one is it's a day-to-day experiences, and third one is it's about the new ideas, stories, and the positivity that you spread. So that's how the constructionist works. So that means as a change agent, our role is to how do we construct? Don't do it. It's like a children, our children. They want to have, they want something from you. So what do? If you have a children or if you are a child, maybe you want something from your parents. What do? We don't go and ask first time. Or if you want an increment or promotion or something from your boss, what do? We don't ask directly. So it's like a pacifying, eating the first, the high end, making it a loose end, and then you are maybe coming back to another way also I'll speak about being a farmer side. If you speak about when you are sowing the seeds, you don't sow directly, you prepare the grounds. So construction is nothing but you are preparing, constructing something for your future. That's the first principle speaks about. Now what's a principle of simultaneity, which speaks about the purposes that as we inquire into human system, we change them. So what is the purpose that we are inquiring into the human system? It's the seeds of the change. You are already planting a seed of a change. The things people think and talk about. So first you talk, get into their shoe. We talk into their shoes. Then slowly we try to discover and then learn. And then the first questions are asked. Suppose, I speak so much about that, this and so on. So how do you think if there is a change in the organizational structure? We have a very tall structure and this. So do you think this revised structure will work for us? Probably, if I'm looking at. So that's how we are inquiring into this one. Then questions are very neutral. So when you are started showing this appreciative inquiry questions, remember it's a neutral, not specific to you. Do you think, you don't ask a person, how do you think if we transfer you? That's a very danger. Then people get into, they don't open up. So that's a reason we need to ask very neutral question. Then when we ask a neutral questions, then most people will open up to discuss about certain things in the organization. Or suppose if you want to change, say it's a COVID recession time, you want to restructure your salaries, keeping it 70-30%, 70 as a fixed and 30 as a variable. Now again, you need to stimulate the discussion with the neutral questions in the organization. The purpose is to understand the pulse. The third one is a poetic principle. Now, what is a poetic principle that we speak about? It's a sorry. It's a principle proposes that organizational life is expressed in the stories of the people tell each other every day. Okay, the story of the organization is consistently being co-authored. Now, you need to create a story. Now, suppose if you speak about the change process that you want to implement in terms of a 70-30 of your salary structure. Now, create stories of the people in the organizations where people lost money, where the companies have lessened or cut down their salaries, or maybe speak about how this works out in the various organizations. Speak about the positives in the organization they work, how the changes happen. Or maybe if you are transferring to somebody, speak about the positive talks about how that fellow has transferred 2 years ago and where is he now. So this is like a storytelling. I'm sure being most of you are trainers, you all know what is the storytelling. So you need to come into the storytelling aspects. Now here in the process of a storytelling, please understand the word, every topic or every word that you use, it creates an impact. It's not just a word that you are uttering, because consciously you are creating these stories to plant a seed in the minds of the persons, because you prepared the ground. Because every word, suppose if you say that X company is because of the recession has removed 10% of their employees, Accenture has removed 10% of their employees, or they're planning to remove. Yesterday I have read a news. Now what happens if your organization is in the similar field? You are hurting their sentiments, because it's going from you. People start thinking about those angles. So it's a very important that we drive this particular change. I'll tell you one of the case study what we have worked out here. There was in one of the organizations where I worked. Maybe you all can also think in the similar lines and share one of your experience in terms of these. One of the organization where I worked, the security guards, we had almost 30 plants. 23 plants we had across AP and Telangana. And then in each location, we had a manufacturing unit, and then each unit has a security systems, and each security system has got a 8-hour shifts. Now this 8-hour shifts were something very, disturbing for us, because of this 8 hours, the cost of the company has gone up. Second, the number of people has increased. So now we wanted to do this during the COVID time, because we don't. The company policy is very simple. Nobody should be sacked. Second, nobody's salary should be reduced. But however, cost reduction should happen. Now, how do we do it? Now it's only based upon the performance that we need to do. Now we started working on, slowly we started spreading through plans, introducing a 12-hour shift system. Now, when we started introducing a 12-hour shift system, now probably what happened, first we spread it as a talk to the units, different units. How is that, the 12 hours will help us? What happens? So nobody bothered about this will impact the security. Most of them focused about the employees' 12-hour shift system. But slowly once the talk has happened, people are spoken about, and then what we spoke about, we started speaking to the security supervisors, because each shift has got a supervisors. Now we started speaking to the supervisors about how about the 12 hours? How does that feel for you? How is that comfortable for you? Then do you feel? Then that fellow felt. We created a positive atmosphere among the people. And then they were very happy that 12 hours is, it's like, having a 2 people who can come in a flexi shifts. Then slowly we focused upon, we started these supervisors to talk about the 12-hour shifts to the security guards. Now, most of the security guards were either they were having a side work apart from their security works in the local villages. So probably for them did not work, and those whom did not work, they said we can't work it. Then we said if you cannot work, we wanted to implement, then you need to take a call. Now that's how slowly what has happened is that most of the people, they opted for 6 hours, 12 hours of shift work. And those who do not want to work for 12 hours of shift work system because of their other commitments, they had to take a call, and they have voluntarily moved out of the company. Now, this is how, without any disturbance, we moved it as a story completely to the people, narrating very beautifully how 12 hours can be very beneficial. Now, what happened over a period of time, it took us almost 6 to 7 months time, this entire process. But what happened in 6 to 7 months time, we were able to cut down almost 33% of the manpower with respect to the security guards. And then we had a system completely built into that. We never had even a single complaint in this 6 to 7 months time that they lost jobs. Some people, they wanted to try it out for another 2 months or 3 months. We gave an option. Some people, they said, no, we can't work immediately. You relieve us. We paid compensation if they wanted to get relieved immediately. So whatever that we offered, asked for, we have offered. That's what we spoke about, adequate resources when we are talking about the individuals. So we have done all those things, and then the system has changed very beautifully. So this is one change principle what we worked on, this particular model, appreciative inquiry. When we use this model, it has become very successful for us. So I'm just giving you this case study when we are in the midst of this particular principle. So this was my experience in one of the organizations, though there are a lot of all those things, but I'm just sharing with the one. So is there anybody would like to share any of such a things you have done, though you may not be knowing this is appreciative inquiry, but you have implemented similar process. Now you understand what is appreciative inquiry. Anybody would like to share your experiences? No. So nobody has implemented, probably. So if none of you have implemented, probably I would ask you, if anybody is implementing any change, look at this particular principle, and this works out very beautifully. Actually, it's a very beautiful principle that works out on these things, because in all the phases of an inquiry effort, using the words that point to enliven and inspire the best in people. So that's the most important. That's what I was speaking about when I inquired about supervisors. That's what they were very positive about. uh, you know, bringing in that Fluxy system. They wanted to be very happy by introducing this Fluxy system, because they can come. Two supervisors can manage their works and introduce that. Okay. Okay, Anand, you wanted to say something?
So whenever we work in the, actually I work in education sector,
Okay.
uh, and as a part of private players,
Okay.
like social sector people. So
Mm-hmm.
like a Jim Premji Foundation, Coast on India Foundation, American India Foundation kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we do, or as a consultant also to the government, whatever we do it from the perspective of appreciative inquiry itself, so that
Okay.
we start with what is what is there, which is making the system live, and from there our initiation point starts from there,
Mm-hmm.
and then we look for other kinds of need assessment and all.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it comes to mental and mental health of adolescent or like teachers, we
Mm-hmm.
start from positive uh, psychology perspective, where we look at what makes life worth living,
Mm-hmm.
and from there we start on strengths rather than weaknesses. We look at preventive measures rather than curative. We don't look for what has happened wrong, but what could be right. So these types of approaches we take whenever we intervene with the system or their processes.
Super. Very
Yes.
good. Now, how many of you have heard about a wage code bill? Sorry, what? Not wage code. We have new code system, no, in HR. 4 bills. All norms have been clubbed into 4 policies.
No, sir, I don't know about this.
Anybody from HR, if you could recollect? I'm just skipping that particular mind. It has been introduced almost 4 years ago, but it's not implemented still. Anybody who is aware that we have this particular thing, like converting into 12 hours work systems, and then people can work 48 hours in a week. Social, not anyway. So that particular amendment, now we have all those policies are clubbed into 4 wage codes, only 4 codes. Social code, wage code. We have 2 more codes. They have clubbed into only 4 things completely. Now see how beautifully the central government has been initiated this. They wanted to bring in a system. Okay, let me take it to because okay, they have bring in this particular system. Now, initially they had with almost all business leaders about introducing this system and the benefits from it. Then they had talks with the different groups of HRs. how this system will work and how this particular thing will be beneficial to the employees and the teams. Then they took into a lot of educational or organizations or the speaking about the legal educational systems where they can start promoting this particular thing as a course, certification courses. Now, I think almost everybody is aware about all these codes and so on, and this has spread across almost every organization knows about it. Now, this is one phase, which is working on appreciative inquiry policy. The second method, if you look at the education system that they wanted to revamp. Now, what is the education system? What we have is that, I think it's 5+3+3, 2+3 system. Now, they want to work in a different system. So like a 4+3+ some structure is there. So now they wanted to rework on it. So it has been there for last 2 to 3 years. The discussions are happening. Now, slowly, what's happening? We are trying to seed in the minds of the people that we are going to get a new system. It's not too easy. It's not too early. It takes time. But once it is implanted in the mind of everybody, now once it is introduced, everybody knows. Because last 2 years I've been hearing about this particular change that will happen. And when it is implemented, it's not a shocker to the people. Now, this is exactly the method that they are using as an appreciative inquiry. Now, this is a fourth principle, is the anticipatory principle. Now, this says the anticipatory principle posits that what we do today is guided by our future. This is exactly the method. Future, how is that the companies or organizations are going ahead with a 3-day working or 4-day working system? That's a talk. Then human systems are forever projecting ahead themselves a horizon of expectations that bring the future powerfully. So we are getting ready for the future, not for today. That's what it speaks about. Then how the positive imagery we are creating in the mindsets of people as a collective, not as an individual. So whatever, now we are in the stage of actually anticipatory principle in terms of education, in terms of these codes, labor codes. Now, the fifth one, what we are speaking about is that it's a positive principle. So in the positive principle, now what it proposes is a momentum and sustainable change. Now look at this one. We are in the fourth phase of appreciative inquiry in terms of these two codes as well as the education system. Now what we are going to experience in the fifth stage is that it's a momentum and sustainable change requires a positive effect on social bonding. Because people start accepting it now. Then it requires sentiments like a hope, excitement, inspiration, and all those things. Then if you look at it also, these sentiments also promote a strong connections and relationship between the people, particularly between the groups in conflict and required for collective inquiry and change. So now what I'm trying to speak about, even the appreciative inquiry that I have changed in terms of, the security guard system, shift system from 8 hours to 12 hours. It has built in a cohesiveness among these supervisors because, they have to work in terms of a flexi shifts. They need to adjust. Either you come 8 to 8 or you come 12 to 12. So they need to go with the understanding. So they need to coordinate. So that developed a system. So exactly the positive principle, which speaks about the bringing in a positivity to get the best out is possible. So these are the 5 principles that we looked at in a short. First one is a constructionist principle, where, throwing a random questions. Then principles of simultaneity. Now we speak about, how is that we develop that relations. Then telling it in the form of a story. Then we need to anticipate the future changes that are happening, then implement the change. Now this entire AI principle works on this 4D method. What is this 4D method? Is that it's dream, design, discover, delivery. That's a destiny we speak about. So first one is the design, then discover, then you dream, then you deliver it. So these are the 4 Ds which speaks about. So you are designing it, then you are discovering the positives and negatives, and then you are dreaming it, the implementation part, and then you are delivering it. So that's a method, AI method. So the next method that I'll be discussing today is that Johari window. How many of you know it? How many of you know about Johari window?
I heard.
I know, sir.
Ganesh knows.
Yeah,
Bharat.
I heard it, but
Ganesh,
not
you
Yeah, I
heard
familiar.
it.
also know.
Bharat knows it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know it also.
Mona
I
knows
have
it.
little bit idea.
You know a little bit. So what I want to do is that, see, since I've been talking for a long time, because I have one more model also to be discussed. I would suggest quickly I'll send you into group for 5 minutes, then come back and explain to your teams what is Johari window, and then you come back. Can we discuss? That's how it goes, or that's option one. Second option, those who know, two of you from this group, I'll give you 5 minutes time. You can explain to the team about Johari window, because it's a known concept. I don't want to deal. Maybe the peer learning can have a much effect. Which one do you prefer out of these two? Option one or option two?
Option 2, sir.
Option two. So then we require volunteers. Anybody who wants to speak about
So
randomly?
let me put across, maybe my colleagues can talk much about it. So what I know so far about the Johari window is we use it specifically for building a team. Okay. So it has 4 quadrant, which is talking about having a awareness about self and the people. So when we talk about self, so it is something which we know about ourselves, and even the people knows about us. So it can be anything. Let's say one simple example. Uh, One knows that this person is too much meticulous about the process, and it is known for the person also, and the people or colleagues around him also knows that. So they knows if they don't follow the process, the person can get angry and he can means he don't like it. Okay, that is called open window. And open window generally required to elaborate or to increase as much as possible, because if the people know about you and you also aware about yourself, there is a high probability, less risk of conflict. Second window, which comes as a blind spot. So blind spot is something which is known maybe to the others, but not to the self. So for example, all of a sudden, one program, the person started, people knows that when he speak, he talk with very detail and having good analytical ability. But maybe that person is not aware. He so think that, okay, I am just adding one more viewpoint. So sometimes it happens, the person may not be aware, but their colleague and their maybe supervisor can ask them, yes, you have this ability. Why not you present it in front of the people? Okay. The third quadrant, which is talking about not known to yourself and not to the world also. So that is unknown. So it is generally a wow moment and a surprise moment. So all of a sudden, let's say there is a gathering, and in gathering, all of a sudden everyone recognize that this person has a very good voice and he can sing very well. So it was just an activity, but all of a sudden the person he started or she started singing. The crowd acknowledged it, and he or she also feel that, okay, I have a good voice. So that can be unknown window. And lastly, which is not which is that known to the not known to the others, but known to self. So which we generally, our secrets, we keep it with us. So there are every person has their own secrets. They don't wanted to share with the public. Okay, so that is hidden area. However, to have a good bonding with the people and having a good relation, it is recommended while you wanted to have a good team or team building. It is good to have open window, larger open window than the other window.
Superb. Shelly wanted to add, or Mona, you wanted to add something? I think Mona said she knows. Correct?
Yeah, yes. I think it's pretty much covered it. Four windows, which are, no, one is known to you, your behavior. It involves everything, like your behavior, and your qualities, your skills, everything put together that is known to you, as well as, wherever you are, in whichever setting that you are, the people also get to know about your qualities. Then there are hidden areas. The blind areas also, and hidden areas. So between the difference between the blind area and hidden areas, blind area is something that you yourself know, but other people are unaware of it. And the hidden areas are which other people are unaware, and other people are aware, but you don't know about yourself. And then the unknown area, where you yourself and others are not aware, and you suddenly discover it, that you have certain qualities, certain behaviors, certain skills, which impromptu comes out, and then you become aware of them. Yeah, pretty much covered there. Thanks.
Super. So anybody wants to add? Maybe let me only add few points to it. I'm sure that's a big appreciation to both of them. I think they have done a good job of covering almost all the points. So I will not take much time. Now you have eased my work.
I think one more thing I would like to add over there.
Yes, Bharat.
So in those, as I said, open window need to be enlarged as much as possible. And there two, one thing is work a lot. That is from if you wanted to migrate from blind to open, then asking feedback can work. And maybe from yes, feedback in asking and giving, both are working in increasing, helping you to increase your open area.
Good. So now we spoke about how interpersonal communication, because change agent is basically establishing a relationship and rapport which works out much better. So now this model, which speaks about the interpersonal communication model, Johari window is known as a interpersonal communication model. Now, if you look at this, is a complete chart which Bharat was speaking about. Known to me, unknown to me, known to others, unknown to others. It's a you and others. Now, the first area which speaks about is that this area, it's a public open area. So when I'm speaking about this open area, basically, this is, which is very good. This is what exactly he's speaking about, having it as a bigger. Now, the second one is a blind spot where you are looking at. Now, this blind spot where I'm speaking about is most of the things. If you look at unknown to me, I don't know about myself, but everybody knows. Like I know what he said. Somebody knows that they are a good singer. I mean, the person does not know, but the others feel that is a very good singer. And then they discover in some function. So that becomes unknown to me. Then some things only you know about your privacy or certain things which others do not know. You never had a chance to display that. And the fourth one is unconscious or unknown, where people do not know. That's a simple thing. So now complete thing which speaks about these three areas, blind, unknown, hidden, are not good for interpersonal relations, communications. Only public arena open. The more transparent you are, the better it is. That's what it speaks about. It can be applicable to family. It can be applicable to spouse. It can be applicable to your boss. Now, which speaks about here, basically the Johari window. So this is what the window which speaks about needs to be very bigger. So let me skip through. Now, suppose if you want, basically to work out what exactly it is, you write down probably what are your known to me, known to others. Okay, only you know, but not known to the others. So the left side of two things, it's easy for you to discover by yourself. The right side of this diagram, for my right side, So these two things basically none of us know. Now, usually, I don't know if it's a physical class, we would have done this activity. I do this exercise for the people. Probably you can also do in your trainings if you require. I used to ask if it's the same set of groups known to the people. I used to give them a pen, one pen, one empty sheet, and then one pin. Now, what I ask them is that first draw a center line, write positives and areas of improvements, concerns. That's all. Positives, area of improvements. Then pin that paper back of your shirt on your back. Then you go around the classroom asking people to write down these things. You don't ask them to write in a sequence. They can write in whichever the in the paper, wherever they want to write, they can write either top, middle, or down. And if they want to change their handwriting, they can change. But it's all for the betterment of the persons. Now give them time of 5 minutes. Whoever gets most of the comments from people, that person you can identify as a winner. Give them that activity. Now, once you do this activity, ask them to remove the paper, ask them to go through this. Now, when they go through, they will discover certain things which are in the unknown to the known to you, sorry, known to the others, but not known to you. This, even that graph will be making you to know. Because, certain times you think that you are very friendly with everybody, but probably somebody writes, you need to become more friendly with the people. That's an eye opener for us. Now, this exercise will help you to reduce this unknown to you and then increase known to me and known to others. Now, this is how Johari window is a tool. It's also a self-reflection tool most of the time. It's a very beautiful tool. People can use it in the trainings and wherever you go. So let me go back to the key points. Let me skip this because, we have already discussed on all these things. The last one. How many of you know this tool? Anybody in this group? See, by the way, before I go this, has everybody understood what is Johari window?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Because I'm not getting into in depth because it's a very easy tool and assuming that everybody knows, I'm just moving it to the next. So how many of you know this? Transaction analysis. TA. In a short form, we call it as a TA. And it's mostly used in OB. None of you know?
Sir, it is, not exactly, but yes, for every stimulus, we get responses, right?
Okay.
And we can, we can judge a person, or we can, give particular stimulus to get particular response. So that is, that adds to their development or some kind of change.
Okay. Good, Garima. That's Ian Pavlov's theory, what you are speaking about. Stimulus and response. Now, correct?
Yes, sir. Right.
Good. Anybody else who wants to add any comments on this? Anyway, and I'm sure if I'm running through, I'll just take few minutes because we have only 10 minutes time. But please go through. This is a very interesting tool which will help us quite a lot. Now, what Garima spoke about, stimulus and response, it's an Ian Pavlov's theory which speaks about if you give stimuli, then there is a kind of response. Now, what is transaction analysis? Stimulus plus response is equal to one transaction. It's a very simple. I give a chocolate to my child, and then my child will give me a kiss. One complete transaction, that is. Okay, that's known as a stimulus plus response is equal to transaction. Now, what is this particular thing that we are speaking about? It's basic unit of conversation and behavior. That's all. See, it's a very simple. I asked, anybody knows about this theory? It's my stimulus. Garima responds. Garima says something, that's a response, which is one transaction between both of us. Now, this is known as a transaction analysis. Now, what is this transaction analysis? You will have, there are three kinds of transactions which I will be discussing. Now, this transaction analysis is working with the three ego states. Okay. Now, I'm sure everybody will have these three ego states. Now, what are these ego states? It doesn't mean that only child will have a child ego state. It doesn't mean only parent will have a parent ego state. A is adult. So if you see, P stands for parent, A stands for adult, C stands for a child. So this theory speaks about every one of us will have a child ego, adult ego, parent ego. Now, what is the child ego? Child ego is in always receiving mode. I'm a child, I'm yet to learn, I'm learning. What is the adult? Adult is a rationalistic mind. When I say rationalistic mind, that's a time everything is being questioned by adult. Let me give you an example. If you have a kid who is on a teenage, probably one of you might have said when he was a child or she was a child, 12 years, up to 12 years or 13 years, whatever you say, the child starts accepting it and they start doing it. Then when they come into the adulthood, they start questioning. And when they start questioning, probably parents, as parents, most of the parents say, I keep taking this session and, parenthood. I mean, art of parenting, I take this session. I mean, I ask them, how many of your parents say this question? You have grown up too big to ask me a question. You have grown up too big to question me, whatever I say. We keep saying this, but actually every adult will develop this particular thing because they want to question. They don't want to just listen. They want to have that rationalistic approach before they convince something. And that's where, adult, if they are not convinced with the rationalistic, with their rationalistic approach, when they approach us, if they're not convinced with the answers, they don't obey. That's a rupture which happens between the parent and child most of the time. Then P is a parent. Who is a parent? Always in a commanding mode. I know everything. I know everything. So you have to obey me. So that's why if you look at here, child is a felt, adult is a thought, parent is a thought. If you look at a parent, parent is beliefs, customs and values and standards and cultures. I know, I have grown up, I have developed. That's a parent. Child, awareness, here and now experience, current reality. They don't think about experience, future or past. Here and now, what is happening? Child is a satisfaction, imagination and creativity for them. So everything is new because, there's a philosopher which says child mind is like a empty blank sheet. That's a tabula rasa. The term uses is a tabula rasa. So it's a blank sheet. Whatever you write, scribble it, that gets imprint on the white sheet. That's how the child starts forming it. That's a stage. So that's why it speaks about next one is, see, persecuting, rescuing, permission, protection. How many of you have seen your bosses also behaving like this? Because, it's a parent. They operate from a parent. Now, adult calculation, they calculate everything that you say, skill, pros and cons, they evaluate. Now, child only desires, wishes, wants, and needs they operate from. Now, that's why what is their behavior? Parent is always a dominant. Adult is a equality. Child is a dependent. Am I clear? You all agree with me? This is what we works out, most of us. Class, you are with me, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
at least
Yes.
sometimes you give thumbs up on this one. Now, today, I think most of you are very silent, so I'm not seeing any response. So I'm wondering whether I'm stuck or something. So now let's look at very important here. Now, what are those three transactions that we will have is that these are the transactions. See, when things go adult and adult, peer learning, what we call it as, it's always happens this one. This is known as a parallel transactions. Now, what is a parallel transaction is that parent talking to parent, adult talking to adult, child talking to child. Now, which says two ego states only are involved, one from each person. Stimulus and response. This is what is known as. So we have a 9 complementary transactions, probably stimulus and response here. What time is it? My watch says 12:30. It's an adult to adult transaction, which says, he's not saying it's 12:30. My watch says it's 12:30. Whether it's a right time or wrong time, I'm not sure. So that practical that they are. Now, if you look at the other 2 parallel transactions, if you look at parent to parent, students are becoming lazy and they are always welcome and spoon feeding. These are the signs of the times. So that is what exactly the parents to parents speak about. Now, child to child, I like your company. I like talking with you. See, look at the transactions which are happening between these segments. Absolutely, there is no issue because they are parallel transactions. They operate from same mentality. They operate from with the same thought process. Second is another parallel transactions that you look at. Now, parent to child also is a parallel transactions. Now, look at here. Look how many mistakes you have made in this report. I'm sorry, madam. It won't happen again. Now, what is this? Here, the child is in a submissive mode. Parent is in a commanding mode. Now, therefore, this also become a parallel transactions because there's no conflict here. The other one, if you look at child to parent, I'm afraid we have to rewrite the initial part of that report. Don't worry, madam, I'll take care of it. Now, assume this parallel transactions happening between the boss and subordinate. That's a 2 bosses, a parallel transaction can happen. 2 subordinates, parallel transaction can happen. Boss to subordinate, parallel transactions can happen. Subordinate to boss, parallel transactions can happen. But when they operate from the ego states of parent and child, only this can happen. Now let's look at cross transactions. Now, what are these cross transactions? Which happen in the reverse, which is not in the parallel. Now, what is the time? Now, see, why don't you use your watch? They're not answering. It's not a parallel. It's a cross. Now, that's exactly which happens with the adult to adult. Okay. Now, similarly, it happens. Have you lost the file inadvertently? See, have you lost that file inadvertently? How dare you say it to me? So this again, which happens because, it's a parent to child. When child says to parent, or maybe this happens, this is a cross transactions which happens. Because now these are the 72 different types of combinations which comes. I'm not explaining to you in detail because I'm just explaining only the concept. Because entire TA is a 3 days module if you have to understand all these transactions. So that's a beauty of it. And the last one is the ulterior transactions. Now, duplex transactions. Now, what happens? Do you know what time is it? Are you aware you are late? 2 questions. It's a 10:30. I really don't care. Now, say, Sumi, there is a good movie running at E Square. Tomorrow, I will go for an evening show. I wish I go for a movie tomorrow with you. Again, see, Jack movie is excellent. Picture starts at 6 p.m., isn't it? I will try my best to join you. So now this 3 different transactions are available. So let me come back to you here when I'm speaking about the ego states, parent and adult and child. These are the 3 major ego states. Out of 3 ego states, what emerges is that one is the parallel transactions, which are nothing but the same level of people which happens. Second one is the cross transactions, which happen with the opposite directions. Then third one is the ulterior transactions, which happens with the duality. So these are the three different transactions that are available. Now, the role of a change agent here is that you need to understand what type of ego state the client is operating from. Then you operate from the same ego states to understand the person. Sometimes the same person is in a parent ego state. From parent, you can bring him down to adult ego state. From there, you bring the person to the child ego state. Once the person comes into a child ego state, it's easy that you can operate from a parent. So usually what happens is that, suppose you are interacting with your boss. The first thing that we need to remember is that boss always operates from a parent. Now you operate as a child ego. Then you scale up to an adult ego. You bring down boss to your adult ego. Then your transactions are equal. Then you reverse it. You go to a parent ego, the boss becomes a child ego, and then whatever you say, the boss listens. If you want to establish a boss with a rapport, this is a secret. That's all. Okay. So I'm done with my session. I'll just take 1 minute or 2 minutes if there are any questions, and then we'll wind down.
No,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Can I ask?
So hope everything is clear.
Yeah. Can I ask one question, sir?
Yes, Ganesh.
Yeah. Does this TA has any cultural impact, or it's independent to culture?
Probably it will not have, because it's only operating from ego state, whichever the culture you are in. Every culture will have a parent, adult, and child ego.
Mhm.
And it's not an Indian based tool, it's an international based tool. Transaction analysis.
Okay. Yeah. Got it, sir. Thank you.
I think
Interesting concept.
I
Yes,
missed
Anand.
some part of it because a call came. I think this is from the book I Am Okay, You Are Okay. I think.
No, that's a Johari window.
Okay. The
So
same
you can
transaction.
connect that principle of I am okay, you are okay, that to Johari window concept.
Okay. This is little different. I think.
This is different. Transaction analysis is different.
Okay.
Okay, good then. So I'm only introducing the concepts and theories. So assuming that you are all very, very, studious students who will do some research later to understand in depth. Before implementing any theory, do little more study, because it's only introductory phase. Okay. Good
Very
then.
interesting concept this is. Yesterday I was coaching a female, and then today what you're explaining, I could relate that, between her and her husband, sometimes it's like she becomes the child ego and he becomes the parent ego, and they are not coming up to the adult ego both together. That's why there is a conflict going on between them. So yeah, very interesting concept. Can you recommend a book on this, please?
Yeah, I'll send you in a text. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No, there is a
Okay.
book on transaction analysis itself. You can take it on, but I'll give you the
Yeah.
author name exactly. So,
All right.
but anyway, so since Mona has triggered one point to me, I would recommend, because most of you are working professionals, use one of these three theories in next 1 week's time, either with your boss or with your colleagues or in your workplace or with your family somewhere or your clients. Next week, I want you all to come with what theory you have used, how this has impacted or improved or given you a positive results. Am I okay? Are you all okay with this homework or assignment?
Sure, sir.
Great.
Just keep this theory in mind, implement it consciously, come out with the results. We will share it. We'll discuss in the next class. Sure.
Yes, of course.
Mona,
Sure,
would you
sir.
mind reminding me next class in the beginning itself, so that we finish this assignment? In case if I forget.
Sure, definitely.
Thank you.
Because
Because you
this
reminded,
this
I'm
subject,
giving you task.
yeah, this subject holds value to me personally and professionally. Definitely, I will be proactive on this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And sorry for taking another 6 minutes extra.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good,
Thank
All
good
right.
week ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madhu.